So I'm actually shipping this P210 Target US made model out. It comes in a little bit different box than the Super Target. Here's the, I guess that would be the right way to show it, but this is a US box, a little bit bigger than the German box. So this is the 6-inch Super Target. And so I thought I'd do a quick comparison. I'm not going to shoot them or anything since I sold this gun already, but thought I'd just do a quick comparison between the two of them. So first thing, let me weigh them real quick, that way I can get the scale out of the way. The 6-inch, and again, this is just the 6-inch. They did make a 5-inch version, and so you can see that the 6-inch version is what I've bought in the German made one versus the 5-inch American made one. And so looks like I'm going to take the magazine out so I can do a fair comparison. The German 6-inch model weighs 2 pounds 6 ounces, so that's what going to be like 38 ounces or something like that. The US made version is 2 pounds 2.5 ounces, and so about 35 ounces, 34.5. So probably just the inch difference is all I would really expect out of that. I don't see, the frames look, make sure I'm lining that up. The frame's a little bit longer on the 6-inch, so that extra weight toward the end, being that being that it is a little bit longer. I don't know how well you can see that, but the dust guard's a little bit longer. And so the dust guard's a little bit longer, a little bit more weight. Same thing with the barrel and slide. Obviously the slide weighs more, so that's more reciprocating mass, which might be bad. So that weighs just a little bit more. One thing, actually, bring the scale back real quick. One thing I did find interesting on this was that, at least when I felt them, the magazines, this is the US magazine here, it weighs in at 3.7 ounces, and the German magazines felt heavier, and indeed at 5.4 ounces they're heavier. I don't know, obviously it's got like a laser etching and it's a matte finish versus the silver finish. Looks like the back, the construction's like got some type of dovetail on it versus the US. And so in general, I don't know if you can see that, but the lips look a little thicker, probably a thicker metal. And then I'm assuming the biggest difference is the base plate seems to be weighted and probably harder to take down, because there's actually a pin. You probably can't see it, but there's a pin way down in there versus you can see the pin right there. And so it does feel a little bit thicker. It also, I think that's a plastic follower in the US one. You can actually see like a little piece of steel right there, versus this entire follower is metal in the German one. So a little bit heavier magazine, and again, I think that was almost 2 ounces. Again, that does add weight to the gun overall, so that may play a bit of factor as well, as far as recoil and stuff, obviously being heavier. The next thing I want to test out here is the trigger pull weight. I believe I'm told the German one's a little bit lighter, and so we'll test the US gun first. Again, this is just a P210 Target. So great gun, by the way. I had a lot of 1911s. I'd heard great things about these P210s being super accurate. I actually bought the non-Target version, just the standard version, non-adjustable sight, didn't have these grips with the flares, and was really impressed with it. Went back and bought the P210 Target for the adjustable rear sight, and then obviously now I've bought the Super Target and sold the American Target version. But really been very impressed with these guns overall, and I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but so we'll call it about a 4-pound trigger, maybe 3.5. I'm gonna try to get a little bit better grip on it so that I can pull it a little bit better this time. Looks like it's about a 2-pound first stage is what I'm seeing. Yeah, about 2 pounds on that first stage. And then, like I said, just below 4 pounds for the total weight on the American version. And then on the German Super Target, it looks like that first stage is also about 2 pounds, maybe a couple ounces lighter, but almost 2 pounds. And then it breaks very quickly thereafter for about a 3 pound trigger, maybe just under. So it's about a pound lighter trigger. And so, yeah, pretty consistent at just under 3 pounds. This German-made version, again, I haven't shot it. You can see that it has like a really tight lockup where, you know, obviously if you drop the slide, it's going to close. But if you just kind of baby it, it's real tight. That may just be, you can see this thick oil that they ship it with to prevent rust. May just be this thicker oil kind of, you know, gumming it up a little bit. Same thing with the trigger. It may lighten up as I shoot it a little bit. But overall, you know, both have been really great guns, and the trigger does seem lighter in the German-made version. So I'll take one last look at the slide to frame fit and see what I think there. So first we'll start with the American. I guess I've done the American version first, so we'll start with it. I will do this with the hammer back on both of them so that the hammer pushing forward doesn't tighten up the slide or anything. Just a touch of side-to-side movement and or horizontal movement. Vertical movement also has just a touch of movement. You might be able to hear it just a little bit, again, a little bit more on that side-to-side movement. If I look at the front side, has just a touch of movement on the front. I mean, when I say a touch, I do mean just a touch of movement. So yeah. And then on the German-made version, same thing, hammer back. It has, I don't know if you can feel it, I would say maybe a touch less horizontal movement, side-to-side movement, but really it's probably very similar. Again, it might have like some grease or something that's not making it quite as obvious, but it has just a touch of side-to-side movement. And I would say it has no discernible vertical movement at all. So again, not shooting this gun, I didn't have very many rounds through the American version, but I did have a few rounds through it. So it may just be this, you know, grease buildup and stuff like that, but it seems like the slide might be a touch tighter. Same thing with the forward, you know, just feeling the forward movement. It's got a little bit of horizontal movement, kind of like the American version did. Other than that, you know, cuts look very similar. There's a little bit, you can see just maybe a slight difference in coloration. That maybe looks like right here's rounded a little bit. It's a little flatter on the American version. Trigger guards look basically identical. The American version actually has a little bit thicker stippling. The German version's a little bit thinner. It's a little bit thinner here as well, and so you can see it's a little bit thinner here. I don't know if that's done by hand or by machine. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, but it's a little bit thicker on the American version. And then grips, release, magazine release seems to be about the same. There is this cutout, so on the American version there seems to be like a little relief right there for your thumb. The German version actually appears that the entire grip is actually just thinner down through there, and so you can see that mag release versus, because of that thicker grip, they actually have you know, had to mill it out so that you can get your finger. I would say reaching the magazine release is a little bit easier on the German one. Same thing, looks like the stippling, the aggressiveness is the same thing. It's a little bit, you know, more aggressive diamond pattern on the American version compared to the German version. Screw looks the same in the grip to me. You know, grips look almost identical. You can see the American version, the dovetail's a little bit different shape. Maybe, I don't see a difference. It may actually be a little bit higher dovetail. And so they both have screws on the bottom side of them, but you can see that the American version, the dovetail kind of, this looks lower but in reality, the whole dovetail may be a little bit higher or lower as well, but there's some little bit of variation there with the dovetail being cut a little bit higher on the German made one. And then I won't do so yeah, the other big thing that I will say that I noticed is the American version has that fiber optic front sight. The German version just has a solid steel sight. Other than that, the rear sights look identical, best I can tell. Adjustments look to be the same. Sorry, I got it out of focus, but the rear sights look to be identical. And then the barrels are a little bit different. You can see that this one is a round barrel, and then the American made version kind of has like a hex pattern. Looks a little bit thicker maybe. To be fair, the whole slide's thicker. Now that I'm looking at it, that entire slide is indeed a bit thicker on the American made version. I have to measure it, which I'm not going to do, but it looks like it's probably thicker. I'm sure I can look it up, but I don't know if this frame looks like it's sticking out a little bit further than on the American one. So I imagine that just the slide is a little bit thicker, which may mean that the slide's heavier. I'd love to take them off and weigh them, but again, I've already sold this gun, so I'm not going to do that. But it does kind of look like the slide's a little bit thicker on the American version. Might hold, you know, hotter loads. It might be heavier. I don't know, but again, this gun weighs about where I would expect it, a couple ounces heavier with that extra length on there. So I don't think the weights are terribly different. But again, it may be that the frame's a little bit heavier and the slide's a little bit lighter or something. But overall, very similar guns. Wouldn't probably, you know, just from a shooting, not from a collectability standpoint, but from a shooting perspective, I can't imagine that this performs much better than the American-made version. I just really like this gun. I don't shoot it much, and I really wanted the more collector German-made 6-inch version.